What's up, YouTube? I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. I know normally I react and respond to news and current events and politics and certain things like that. Well, we're going to respond to something in the culture today. And Tom Macdonald just dropped a new music video called People So Stupid. And if you guys remember, I actually used a clip from Tom Macdonald's song Exposure in episode 8 of Revved Up, my first series my first episode of the Black Lives Matter series. And Tom is always pushing buttons. He's always coming with something provocative. And so I wanted to respond to something here today. I actually have a buddy of mine who actually made a cameo in his I Wish video. So I don't want to say any names because I know people would probably, people will get blacklisted canceled just for knowing me. So I don't want to throw anybody under the bus that way. But I've been following Tom Macdonald for a while, and he always tells it exactly how he sees it. So I don't always agree with everything he says. I agree with a good bit of stuff he says, but let's go ahead and see what he's talking about with this new music video, People So Stupid.
Hi, I'm praying that the world changes soon. Can get a doobie on a plane, but there's Uzis in our schools. Every dude who touched a boob or a booty getting me too. What you expect from the kids who went to Hooters after school? We're all
Oh, that's a good point. As a society, we have had sexuality pushed on us ever since the 60s. I mean, sex sells, of course, and that's been the name of the game. And we've used that as an excuse to exploit women in advertising, in movies, and marketing. So we are constantly being bombarded with sexual imagery, and then we're expected to grow up and always behave ourselves and not know how to contextualize when certain things are appropriate and when they're not. So I think Tom Macdonald is making an excellent point there.
From the kids who went to Hooters after school. We're all triggered and defensive. We're all racist and we're sexist. We all grew up watching South Park. How are we offended? Now being...
Yes, we all... I watched the very first episode of South Park ever created back in 1997. I was in 7th grade. I remember when it aired, and I've been watching it ever since. We grew up on this stuff, and it was designed to push the buttons and show that we shouldn't be offended by everything. And one thing that I think is really interesting here is Tom Macdonald is always pushing back against the social justice warriors, which is one thing that I really love about his work. But you see him here, man crucified for having an opinion. He's got imagery of himself being hung on a cross. Now that is imagery that often would piss off the Christian right. They would think that it's sacrilegious. So this is why somebody like Tom Macdonald actually has artistic integrity, because the purpose of this song is to go against people getting offended by every little thing, and so he can't just be placating one side or trying to pander to one side. He's getting everybody in this. So if you're a Christian and you're offended by his imagery of him hanging on the cross, you're really not responding any differently than the social justice warriors are by getting offended by virtually everything. So I think that's a good thing by Tom Macdonald is he holds everybody to account and he holds the mirror up in front of everybody. So that's what artists with integrity do, though. That's what artists with integrity do.
Offended. Now being fat is beautiful. Name a thing that you can't do. Jumping jacks, run a mile, live past 42. Man, it used to be cool to just flip a bird to the system, and now it's trendy to be triggered and pretend you're a victim. It's my race, it's my weight, it's because I'm a Christian. I hate.
There you go. See, he's holding everybody to account. And I mean, that is pretty funny when he calls out the whole idea of fat shaming and the body positivity movement, where you see people like Tess, I forget her name, Tess something. She's a very overweight model, and she goes and she flaunts around in bathing suits. And for one, it's just not attractive, because when we look at somebody like that, we have an innate response that you're dying. Like you're not healthy. You are working against your own ability to be a person that's going to be in my life. So there's an inherent unattractiveness, because at a root level we understand that. We understand when somebody is sickly and not well, and especially when they're doing it out of their own life choices and they're proud of that. It's a wholly unattractive quality. And it's not just about the shape of the body. The whole body positivity movement is the most shallow interpretation of the idea that you should take care of yourself. So let's go ahead and we're going to rewind this a little bit. Also, I got a question for Tom Macdonald here, because I know Tom likes to watch his reaction videos. Maybe he'll never see this, But Tom, if you do see this, please drop a comment. Is this lady supposed to be Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks? Because she completely reminds me of Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks. Let me rewind it a little bit.
It's my race, it's my weight, it's because I'm a Christian. I hate the internet and anyone who has an opinion. And everybody angry if you say white. Okay, fine. Pass me the brush and I'll paint my face to the shades right. Let's talk about...
Everybody's, what does he say? It's racist to say white or something. But pass me the brush, I'll paint my face till the shades white, or shades right. It's, that's the damned if you do, damned if you don't aspect of our current cancel culture. I don't know if you guys remember when a couple years ago people went around posting signs on college campuses that said it's okay to be white. It's one of the most innocuous things you could possibly say. It's not a white pride message. It's not anything about supremacy. It's just saying it's okay to be white. Meaning it's okay, meaning it's not a bad thing. Yet people freaked out. And so you see all of these attacks against whiteness today. In fact, you remember, you've probably heard me talk about that whole whiteness thing that the Smithsonian National Black History Museum, or whatever it's called, put out, where they attributed basically all of the functioning elements of society attributed to whiteness, which was in and of itself a white supremacist message. Because it was things like being on time is whiteness, working hard is whiteness. All of the things that we need to do on a base level to survive were whiteness. and so he counteracts that with what is also racist and blackface. Paint my face till the shades right. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's why this whole anti-racism movement is often rooted in racism. So, Tom's crushing it so far. I also like the beat. I mean, the beat is a banger here. I know some people, it's a little different, but I could see myself jamming out to this. So.
I'll paint my face to the shades right. Let's talk about abortion. Sorry, tell me how this works. Bacteria is life on Mars, but a heartbeat isn't life on Earth. Weird.
Tom, you stepped in it. But you did it so good. Bacteria is life on Mars, but a heartbeat isn't life on Earth? You can't counteract that logic. Because the pro-abortionists try to make a scientific argument about where life begins, yet we know if you go to a different field if you go to any other field of science, that life begins at a cellular level. So that's why people tend to have it right when they say that life begins at conception, because it happens at a cellular level. If we're gonna send a rover to Mars, find a couple bacteria and say this is life, the conditions are suitable for life because there is life here. Well, then how can you come back here and say that a partially formed fetus that already has functioning organs is not life just because it's not outside the womb? That is so disingenuous. So Tom nailed it on that one. All right, let's go back a little bit.
Life on Mars, but a heartbeat isn't life on Earth? Weird.
I'm loving what's going on in the corner there.
I'm a hater because I can't relate to gay pride. Call me homophobic because I don't want to date guys. K-type.
Call me homophobic because I don't relate to gay pride. Sorry, I don't want to date guys, or something like that. And we see this actually less with the gay community than the trans community. You see all these articles coming out talking about how nobody wants to date trans women because of transphobia. No, it's because you got something between your legs that I ain't attracted to. I like women. And unfortunately, you cannot change yourself from a man to a woman just because you wish you were made another way. You were not made that way. I wish I was 6'3" and built like The Rock, but guess what? I wasn't born that way. So I've come to terms with it. It's hilarious.
Surprised the world declined along the way. Give trophies to children for losing. For one, I'm not surprised the world declined along the way. Give trophies to children for losing just because they decide to play. The exercise a right to vote and hate the pilot.
Now he's talking about the participation trophies. And that, I mean, I think that is, it's very symptomatic of the millennial mindset, the participation trophy. It's very emblematic of where the root of where a lot of these people come from. And it's not a singular thing like, oh, this is all about participation trophies. No, but it is about the coddling of failure. It is about not drawing the distinctions between those who win and those who didn't. And those who didn't win need to put in more work or find something that better suits their natural strengths, or just do it for fun. But you can't sit here and say that just because you participated, you deserve something, because that is not going to be conducive to creating a productive individual. And a productive individual should be able to know what their own personal strengths and weaknesses are and be able to play to them so that they can be productive. But if you're not productive, you have to produce in order to consume. It's trying to figure out how to say this the right way. Communists, they always want to control the means of production, but they want equal distribution of that production, and it doesn't really matter whether, or that they want equal consumption of the production, and it doesn't really matter how much you produced into the pool of what is consumed. So if you have that sort of mentality, you're going to produce less, consume more, and eventually there is nothing left to consume. You have eaten everything alive, eaten everything away, and there's nothing left. It collapses underneath itself. We've seen that with every communist society that we've ever seen in the history of the world, except for China, which is kind of a bastardized cronyist communism where they have I don't even like to use the word capitalism when I'm talking about cronyism. But anyways, that's a whole different tangent. Let's get back to the song.
For losing just because they decide to play. The exercise a right to vote and hate the politicians. Ay,
Yep.
This is a democracy. It's partly your decision. Ay, this is weird. Feels like this a different year. If I identify as a female, then when my balls and penis disappeared.
Well, I guess I got ahead of Tom a little bit when I was talking about what I was saying a minute ago. You can't just say you just got to accept you for how you were made, And that's what's so funny is I always find it hilarious with the trans community how they get so mad when society doesn't accept them for who they are, yet they don't accept themselves for who they are. How are we supposed to accept you? We are accepting you for who you are. You were either born a man and you're a man, or you were born a woman and you're a woman. Who you are the one that is not accepting yourself for who you are, and then you want to get mad at us for not placating your delusions. So good on Tom for calling that out.
If I identify as a female, then when my balls and penis disappear. Children want a gender switch and hating men is feminist. Depression and anxiety are trendy. We're too sensitive and...
Children want a gender switch. Wow, he is tackling the real issues. And it's gotten so bad that now we even have parents gender switching kids who don't want to gender switch. If you guys follow the case of James Younger in Texas, a judge just ruled against the father. So initially, the judge ruled, a judge ruled that both the parent or both the mom and the father had to consent because the mom wanted to transition 8-year-old James Younger into a girl. And I did a video on it, so you can go back and look at it. But it's gotten to the point now where it's not even about kids wanting to gender switch. It's about parents wanting kids to gender switch, and now they're being given the legal right to do so, which is child abuse. But it's even child abuse to put this stuff out there in the pop culture and make it so that it's cool. I mean, let's be real. Gender, for the longest time, it was called gender dysphoria. It was a medical condition. But now we're taking medical conditions, mental health problems, we're making them mainstream and then promoting them as if they're something cool. And we're doing it all because we don't want to offend the sensibilities of the very few people that suffer from this. But when you make it a cultural phenomenon, all of a sudden you have people that do it because they think it's a ticket in. And especially when you have kids that don't understand the long-term ramifications of these decisions. They think they can do it, and they think that that's how that's the new direction of the world. This stuff isn't going to last forever. It's a trend. It's a fad. It's not going to be something that goes on for forever. And then they're going to be left there, their body mutilated, their entire sensibilities and their worldview perspective warped. It's really, really bad stuff. So good on Tom again for calling this out.
Depression and anxiety are trendy. We're too sensitive. Invented 80 genders. Mad the world is not accepting it. Then gave them more attention than normal women and men can get.
Yup.
What a contradiction. Being human is so tragic. Focus on minorities, ignoring all the masses. Hallelujah.
Focus on minorities, ignoring all the masses. That is a perfect diagnosis for why Trump won in 2016. Because for too long, we put all of the focus on the few disparate groups, and we made the masses bend to the minority's will. And I don't mean minority as a racial minority, or I mean any kind of intersectional group. And the more intersectionalism takes over our discourse, the more disparate groups, the more minority groups you're creating. Instead of keeping us all under the umbrella of Americans that have some sort of natural cultural through line based on our constitutional founding, we have completely different groups with different ideologies, and what you end up also having is the left consumes itself. All these different intersectional groups, they don't agree with each other on everything. That's why you have all of these third wave feminists who are the intersectional feminists going ham on all the second wave feminists, calling them TERFs. Trans exclusionary radical feminists. So you see that as it progresses, it just ends up eating itself. It ends up destroying itself. The problem is that we, us who don't want anything to do with this intersectionalism, we have to deal with the backlash of it, because none of our interests are being looked after until Donald Trump came out. And all of the people who have been disaffected by a pop culture that ignores them, despite them being the majority of the country, all of a sudden felt like we had a champion to fight for us. And that's why I named this MAGA Chud Response to Tom Macdonald. So, because, yeah, you can't ignore the masses and not expect the masses to rise up. That's a dumb move.
Focus on minorities, ignoring all the masses. Hallelujah, everyone. Activism saved the planet. No more plastic straws and paper, just paper straws wrapped in plastic.
What did he say? No more plastic straws and paper, just paper straws wrapped in plastic. That's right, because you got to wrap a paper straw in plastic to protect it from getting wet, because once it gets wet, it's ruined, which is ironic because it's supposed to go into a wet cup, where it doesn't have a very long life after it does, before it gets all soggy and gross. But what he's pointing out here is that they do nothing. The whole switch of something just so minuscule as straws from plastic to paper, well, you had to change the packaging from paper to plastic because of that, to waterproof it. So, yeah, I mean, it is hilarious because you see, it's a highlighting of the law of unintended consequences. And I think Tom gets that. Maybe he doesn't understand it. Maybe he doesn't process it in those exact same terms. But that's what it is. It's falling victim to the law of unintended consequences that if you had any sort of foresight, you would have been able to see coming. So really, really, really good stuff. Also, what's hilarious, just another little tidbit, is when they started doing the paper straws. I think I might have the numbers mixed up, but straws are, I think, like number 5 plastic, which is really easy to recycle. And so a lot of places end up switching it with these plastic cups that were made out of number 2 plastic that are almost impossible to recycle. So it actually made the plastic pollution problem worse because, again, law of unintended consequences.
The planet, no more plastic straws and paper, just paper straws wrapped in plastic. Congratulations. Y'all so stupid. Why are y'all so stupid? Get better problems, I swear to God that y'all want them, y'all so dumb. People so stupid, people so dumb, people so cool. Get better issues, we're gonna run out of tissues, it's so dumb. Look, I get it, it's like the world is going crazy. Seems like a school shooting happens almost daily. The racism, rape culture, hatred, the
me run that back a second. What did he just say there?
Daily. The racism, rape culture, hatred that we're facing is way too ingrained for our hashtags to...
I don't think I got to disagree with Tom a little bit on this. I mean, you know, not to take away anything from how awesome this song is and what the message is, but you know, he's talking about school shootings don't happen daily. You know, we get like one major one a year, and that's not great, but you know, it's also not a reason to take guns away from people, especially when you see with all these riots and everything. But he talked about rape culture and racism. I'm going to have to disagree with Tom a little bit on this one. You know, if you go out on the streets and you start harassing a woman, how long do you think it is before a group of men step up and beat your ass? That's because we don't have rape culture. We do have rapists, but we don't have a rape culture. Our culture still understands that it's a man's job to protect a woman. And I also don't think that the racism problem is nearly as much, as big of a problem as he's kind of making it out to be here. I think racism has mostly been perpetuated by the idea of racism. I think the more that we push the idea that America is a racist place, the more racist it's going to become. Because the more you're going to view the world through a racial filter. And so, well, I think Tom's done a great job on this. I do think that he kind of surrendered the premise a little bit on this and undercut a little bit of his message. But, you know, as an artist, you got to show a little bit to both sides. I understand that. And, you know, Tom does hold both sides to account, which I respect. I just don't think that it was... Those notions are built off of actual truth. And so I think that he surrendered the premise a little bit, which is always, you know, it's easy to do. It's easy to do because we want to talk to both sides. But it gives them and once you surrender the premise, you lose the argument typically. So let me go back a little bit.
That we're facing is way too ingrained for our hashtags to change it. We've become so lazy and complacent, afraid of our generation. We think activism's Instagramming memes and complaining it's a problem when there's actually actions you could be taking, but you're triggered so you just cry like a baby. So stupid.
Well, you can't say that the left hasn't been taking any action as they burn down massive amounts of our country right now and a lot of our major cities. They have been taking action, but it has not been good action. That's a whole nother conversation that we could probably go off on for an hour, and I don't want to do that because this is a music video response, and I've probably gotten a little too political as it is. But let's just go ahead. All right, so I kind of love this shot right here, and this is a shout out. I'm assuming Nova Rockefeller did this video. That's Tom Macdonald's girlfriend, and she tends to do all of his videos. Again, I still think this is modeled after Anna Kasparian. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. Tom, if you see this, please let me know. But I thought that this little shot here was just really cool because just look at how soulless and lifeless she looks, and she zoomed in on her when she did. I mean, she just looks like a doll for the teleprompter, which is what so many of our news anchors are these days. I guess really that's what news anchors have always been. But yeah, I wasn't paying too much attention to I wasn't commenting on the lower thirds earlier. But there was one of the lower thirds, or one of the scrolling texts said, what is it? News reports opinion, or man reports opinions, or something like that. And I thought that was interesting. You know, there is some interesting commentary on the news media in this video, and this is mostly in the visuals. So I've been responding to the song, but I want to make a couple points about the video. So that point where they had the scrolling text, and he said, you know, more opinions reported, I think is what it said. More opinions reported. That is a great commentary on our news, because what we're often getting is not news anymore. They are opinions. And we have places like CNN, and MSNBC does a better job of delineating what their opinions versus news are, but CNN especially, it's all opinions, but they act like they're fair and balanced news reporting. So they don't draw the distinction between what is their news and what is their editorials. So I thought that was interesting that he put that in there. Maybe I'm reading too far into this, but also just kind of the lifeless expression on this woman's face here as she's getting offended, and she just looks dead inside. I mean, she looks beautiful, don't get me wrong. She's a beautiful woman, and I think Nova did this on purpose. I would assume that Nova probably directed this expression out of her in order to get this, but I think it really shows the soullessness of our media today. And so I think that's really clever. I think it was really, really well executed. So Nova did a great job on this video. And I think the commentary on the news and then Tom going in there and just disrupting everything. And Tom doesn't care who he offends. Tom doesn't care. And that's why he's so great. And that's why he has such integrity as an artist. We're about at the end of the song here. Let's go ahead and just ride it out. Yep. Nova Rockefeller did the video. So, anyways, guys, that's about it for the response to this video. Let me know what you think. I probably went a little bit more political than a lot of the responses to this video were. But again, that's what I do, is I do political commentary. Tom, if you do see this, I'm here in LA. I would love to do an interview with you sometime and find out what it is like navigating our pop culture, being so brazen and so unabashed about speaking your mind, because I think it is a wonderful phenomenon, and I think we're going to see more and more artists that are seeing the success that Tom is building off of this, and it's going to follow suit, and it's going to change the culture. I mean, seriously, guys, maybe hip-hop isn't your thing. I grew up in Atlanta, so I grew up with Outkast and Ludacris and all that stuff, so, I've always been a hip-hop fan. But Tom Macdonald is changing the game, and I think you guys should all check him out. He's got a lot of just speak the truth messages going on. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you on the next one.